Hey everybody, this is your girl CeleXy, and this is tonight's edition of MindFreak. Today is Wednesday, April 3rd, 2019. Today we are talking about the Sinister's Wife. Yes, The Sinister's Life. So if you're not familiar with this book, this is a book that just came out, the first book actually of the Your Life Reimagined book series, where I, as the author, serve as somewhat of a ghostwriter, but not anonymous, and I collaborate with individuals to bring their story to print. And as you know, I kind of went into this in the first MindFreak video about that process. But anyway, today I just want to sort of kind of reignite interest in this book because there are things that are still going on in our society that are very relevant, very relatable to this book, according to, the Me Too movement and everything that's going on in our churches today with the leadership and everything. And so again, Sinister's Life is just a timely book in the climate that we are in, the culture of the church today. This book is just right on time. And so if you've not gone to the CeleXy design webpage on Amazon.com, you can get to that page at Amazon.com/author/CeleXy design. You can also go directly to Google and just put in the title of the book, The Sinister's Wife, The Gospel According to Rochelle Frazier, and it will come up and give you a small synopsis of what the book is about. But of course, you will read immediately that it's ripped straight from the headlines. This book is inspired by actual events, and some of the reviews that came in, just to caption some short quotes. One lady, Sheila R., says that the book is jaw-dropping and captivating. And then Lady Lou says it's the blueprint for the inner work of healing. And I think that's a key foundation for just setting up the platform for all these young women and men who have been the victims of molesters, sexual abusers, sex addicts, whatever the case may be. Knowing that this book may actually serve as a blueprint to begin the inner work of healing is enough in and of itself to get it for yourself and read it, share it with a friend, someone who's been through something, someone you know who's not fully recovered, even with medication and counseling. Sometimes just knowing that you are not alone and going through this process with others can help to also propel that inner work of healing. So what I want to talk about tonight is, even though I am the principal author of this book, I am also a victim. I am also the victim of one of the main characters in the book, as well as the mentor in the book. So this book probably was one of the hardest, most challenging, most difficult books for me to write, second to The Eye That Follows Me, mostly because what I experienced when I was the victim, it was 20 years ago. So I've had a chance to begin that inner work of healing. I actually began my inner work of healing like in 2000, somewhere between 2008 and 2012. I was beginning to allow those things from my past that I had suppressed that was causing me to be in a state of dis-ease. I was in the process during those 4-year period of allowing those things to rise to the surface so that I could deal with them consciously and from a perspective of reality. And I needed to do that so that I could move on. And it is actually what propelled me into becoming an author. So again, what I want to share with you tonight, and I don't really want to give a lot of the book away, so I'm just going to read the afterword, because if you've read the entire book, if you plan on reading the entire book, I want you to know that this book is more than a young woman who's sharing her story, having been married to this minister, but also the sacrifice of a 20-year relationship as a result of this minister's actions. I never expected that moment to occur. The moment when two women who developed a friendship as a result of a shared birthday and who became sisters as a result of shared heartache would reunite. But it did. It was the summer of 2018 on a hot August day, and I was finishing up the edits on my last book. As I sat in contemplation, an idea manifested, and I would include ghostwriting as a component of the Heaven's Mind book series. A client would tell me the highlights of an experience or an event that they desired to publish in a book format, and I would create an entire story around the subject matter. The story would manifest through the lens of Heaven's Mind, a reimagining of the experience, if you will. I called upon my editor to share and explain the concept with her. Initially, she didn't quite understand why I would want to do such a thing or who would be interested in the process. You see, I attempted to further explain through examples, all the while failing to access the appropriate words to describe my thoughtology. Nevertheless, I remained hopeful that when the time was right, the idea would manifest. A few miles away, another woman sat in contemplation as she prepared to begin a new life as a single woman. It became increasingly apparent that she must first close the book on her life as a married woman. She decided she would write a book about her experiences as a minister's wife. But how, she thought. She felt she didn't have the time, nor did she possess the skill set to even write a book, let alone publish one. And although she had been approached by multiple parties interested in her story, she never felt completely comfortable sharing her most intimate details with just anyone. She wondered who would be sympathetic to her situation. Who knew her well enough to capture the essence of her experience without judgment? Who would stand with her as she bared her soul to the world upon publishing the book? Meanwhile, I was really missing my sister friend and was well aware of all the obstacles, mountains, and valleys she had experienced, endured, and overcome. I decided that since I was in town and in between projects, I would call and invite her out for a dinner and a mini girls' night out, despite the numerous past failed attempts. I called. She answered. I invited. She accepted. We agreed on a date, a time, and a location. Almost 20 years had passed since we shared a meal and conversation, and I wondered if I would share my secret with her. Would the opportunity even present itself? Would she be able to handle the added disappointment? Would she even believe me? And more importantly, would she understand it was the reason for my absence all those years? I decided I would not initiate sharing the painful information, but if the opportunity presented itself, I would. It did. I did. She did. We cried. And the Sinisters Life, as well as the Life Reimagined book series, was born. So again, I'll say this in closing. This was truly one of the most difficult stories for me to write. One, to actually share the story with the young lady who actually experienced it all. I had a few details. I knew a little bit of things, before we got started. But as she began to divulge her story to me, of course, I learned a myriad of other things. And it was just enough for me to put myself in her shoes, for me to relive her experience with her. The 6-month task was rough. I actually had to take some time off, and I wrote another book called Changing Seasons, a Love Story. It was something light, something to help me balance out the pain and suffering of my friend, as well as reliving my own events, listening to the voices of my assailants and seeing their photos and reading the newspaper articles and listening to the television coverage. It was difficult for me too. Just as I know the victims who are or who have also shared in these experiences, I know it's hard. And actually, I don't even like to use the word hard. It's difficult, it's challenging, but it's something that we simply must overcome. If we are to reclaim our dignity, our integrity, our personality, and our victory, these are the harsh things in life that we did not invite into our life. But as God is my witness, as CeleXy continues to keep me balanced and centered, we will overcome. There's a scripture that says, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper." What the enemy meant for bad will always work out for my good. So even the things that have been the most challenging for us to endure and to overcome, we have to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that our ladder will always and forever be greater than our past. If you haven't read the book, get it. The Sinisters Life. The Gospel According to Mrs. Rochelle Frazier. And if it gets too heavy for you, if you find it just overwhelming and too relatable, sit it down and order the companion book. Changing Seasons, a Love Story. It's the perfect balance to such a dark book. This is the winter, but this is the spring. It's your girl CeleXy signing out for MindFreeQ, as well as the Heaven's Mind and the Your Life Reimagined book series. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next week.